I've owned my 2022 Ford F-150 Lightning Lariat with the extended range battery for a little over a year now, and I've driven it 15,000 miles. In this video, I'm going to talk about the things that I like about the Lightning, the things that I don't like about the Lightning, how much it costs to charge to drive 15,000 miles, and much more. So if you're interested in the F-150 Lightning, you're not going to want to miss this one. All right, so as I mentioned, I've had my Lightning now for about 16 months. And I have just shy of 15,000 miles. I actually right now have 14,935 miles. And over that period, I've averaged a combined 2.1 miles per kilowatt hour. And that's including winter we drove through last year where the efficiency was much lower than it is in the summer months, probably averaging somewhere around 2.3 to 2.4 miles per kilowatt hour in the warmer months, and in the colder months, somewhere around 1.7, 1.8. That's what I've at least observed on most of my driving. And there's another thing to consider. Last year in the winter, and I'm about to put them on again, I bought BF Goodrich KO2 tires with a much more aggressive tread than what the stock tires have here on the Lightning, and ran with them for about 4 months. So that lowered my efficiency a little bit more. I'm going to be putting them back on in a couple of weeks, so it's going to take a hit again. So not bad for a 2.1 miles per kilowatt hour average on such a big truck over the course of 16 months and 15,000 miles. Normal driving when it's, let's say in the summer months, I average 300 miles per charge of just around the town, mixture of secondary, tertiary, and highway roads. If I'm just on the highway in the summer months, I'm averaging about 260 miles per charge, which is less than EPA, but the Lightning is kind of a big brick going along on the highway, so I wouldn't expect it to get close to EPA. At highway speeds, I'm talking 75 miles an hour, I figure around 260 miles. And even in the worst months, the worst conditions, I'm able to get more than 200 miles out of the Lightning. So let me get the sun visor down. So that's range-wise. I'm okay with the range. I figured it was going to be about that. And even though it's got a really big battery, it's a heavy truck and it's not really aerodynamic. So if we want to talk about how much it costs me to charge, we can use the amount of miles I've driven with the average consumption rate. I haven't kept exact records of every time I've charged. Most of my charging's done at home. Better than maybe 95% of my charging's done at home. I only really use public infrastructure when I'm on long road trips, and I've taken a couple of them, not too many. I went up to Canada. I live in northern New Jersey. I went up to Canada. I think that road trip was about 1,200 miles round trip. I go to my in-laws' house up in Vermont a lot, but that's their house about 210 miles away, and I don't have to stop and charge. I can make it even in the dead of winter. I did a video actually on that, on the Lightning driving to Vermont when it was, I think it was like 10 degrees, and I had a strong headwind, and I still made it with the extended range battery pack. It still went 210 miles. There wasn't a lot left in the tank, but I was able to make it. So even in the worst conditions, I'm able to drive more than 200 miles, and that's at highway speeds with a strong headwind when it's extremely cold out. So getting back to the cost, how much did it cost me to charge the Lightning for 15,000 miles? Okay, I'm going to break it up in two parts. There's the DC fast charging and home charging, because what you pay is dramatically different for when you're charging at home and when you're charging on the road. For instance, I pay between 14 and 15 cents per kilowatt hour when I'm charging at home. And when I'm using a DC fast charger, it's more than 30 cents a kilowatt hour. It depends, different networks have different prices, but I probably average somewhere around 32 cents per kilowatt hour. So that's a significant difference. It's twice as much. Luckily, I haven't needed to DC fast charge that much, only on a few road trips that I've taken, and also when I do my DC fast charge recordings, so I can explain charging to my followers. Now those really, I didn't have to do it. I only did it to make videos, but I included that in there. So in this time period, I paid about $400 to DC fast charge the vehicle. And when I was charging at home, it was about $850. So for 15,000 miles, it's cost me about $1,250 to charge the Lightning over the year. It's not an exact figure, it's probably within $50, but it's pretty close. And I mean, you could do the math with the miles I've driven and the consumption rate and so forth and account for some charging losses. But that's pretty close to what I've charged. I've also been able to charge for free quite a few times. And there's another factor you have to figure in. I'm not figuring it in with my calculations though. I have solar on my house. And so I have a very small electric bill. My solar system provides most of my electricity. Now, a lot of people say, well, you had to pay for that system. You have to factor that in. Well, I've had it for 13 years now. And about 4 years ago, I broke even. And now I'm above water. I'm in the black. So the system's paid for itself. So, you know, if you want to factor that in, that's fine. But I'm giving you what it would cost me if I paid full market rate for my electricity here in New Jersey. Realistically, that $1,250, I probably paid about $600 to charge it for the entire year. But I'm going to use the market rate because not everybody can have solar electric. Now let's compare it to a gasoline-powered F-150. So I looked at the 3.5 liter turbo V6. Gets about 20 miles per gallon average. If you use the current gasoline costs in the state of New Jersey over this last year, it would have cost you about $2,625 to gas up the ICE version of the F-150, while it cost me $1,250. So it's less than half. And the EPA actually has on their website, when you look up the vehicles, you can see what it'll cost you to operate these vehicles. And they give you a 5-year cost. And then they say, this vehicle will cost you X amount more or less than the average vehicle. And the average vehicle is a car, probably gets 25 miles, 28 miles per gallon, something like that. I don't know exactly what it is, but they use the same baseline to compare all the vehicles. The F-150 3.5 liter turbo V6, they say will cost $4,000 more than the average vehicle to refuel over a 5-year period. It's estimates, of course. And the Lightning, my version of the Lightning, they say will cost $4,500 less. So that swing is $8,500 over 5 years. Now, if you calculate my savings, it's a little less. I was probably a little bit less than $7,000, but that's because I factored in DC fast charging. When the EPA does this calculation, they don't factor in DC fast charging. They factor in if you were going to charge based on the average electricity price in the US, you would save $8,500, $4,000 more for the gas powered, $4,500 less for the Lightning. So that equals $8,500 in savings over a 5-year period if you were to drive a Lightning compared to the 3.5 liter V6. Now, I would probably be a little bit less, but if you remove the DC fast charging expense that I had in, let's say I just strictly charged at home, it would be very close to that $8,500. So the EPA site is pretty accurate. It's not perfect. It's not meant to be perfect. It's meant to give you a guideline, and it's pretty accurate. You probably can figure on saving close to $8,000 over a 5-year period if you were to drive a Lightning compared to the F-150 with the 3.5 liter V6 turbo. I didn't do any trailering. I don't typically need to trailer, but I did use the bed a lot to haul stuff. I bought a house recently and I'm rehabbing. I'm doing a lot of the work myself. So, I mean, I've probably picked up 200 to 300 2x4 studs, countless sheets of plywood, a bunch of sheetrock. Most of the sheetrock I had delivered, but I had to run and pick up probably at least 10 or 12 sheets. And tile and thin set and all kind of building supplies. And the Lightning was fantastic for that. But I mean, it's a pickup truck, so it should be. I really love the frunk though. I use the frunk all the time. I think the frunk is one of the best features, the mega power frunk on the Lightning. It really is such an amazing tool to have this safe, locked, secure storage and so much storage up there. I use it all the time, the frunk on this, and I love the low loading height. I have a Rivian also, but the Rivian, the front faux grille doesn't lift with the frunk, so you have to lift everything up over that to get into the frunk. And with the Lightning, it's almost like waist level, so it's really easy for me to load stuff in there, heavy stuff. It makes it so much easier. I mean, that's the reason I really don't use the Rivian frunk that much, which is strange, but I use the Lightning frunk all the time. And I really think it's just because of how easy it is to get stuff in and out. I have been really happy with the build quality. Everything seems really tight still. I haven't had any issues. I haven't had to take it in for service for any reason. There has been a couple of recalls, minor recalls. I wasn't involved in it. And there's one with the taillight bar is getting condensation in it on some of the Lightnings. And I've been monitoring mine, and mine seems to be fine. It doesn't have that problem, but I'm going to keep an eye on it. And if I see any moisture building up inside the tail ends, I'll take it in and under the recall, have it swapped. I'd imagine that's a probably really expensive item, that light bar that goes across the whole back of the vehicle. One of the things that I am happy to see is it appears as though Ford is listening to customer feedback. One of the things that they added with an OTA update over this year was the numeric state of charge on the driver's display. When I first got the Lightning, I made a 10 likes and dislikes video, and one of the things I noted was I didn't like the fact that there was no numeric state of charge. There was if you went into the calm screen, or if you went into the center console, you could find it, but I like to have a numeric state of charge always displayed on the driver's display. It's my personal preference, and I know a lot of other EV owners like to see it also. Having remaining range is great too, but I like to have a numeric display. And one of the OTA updates, it just was included, and that's great. So Ford's listening. I'm sure I'm not the only person that complained about it. Another thing that they added over this year was the phone as a key access. So that's good that they did that. Now, it's not a complete feature. It's kind of one of the things I like, but one of the things I dislike. I like the fact that Ford introduced it, brought it in, and made it available. However, it only does remote unlock. It doesn't do remote lock when you walk away, so it's kind of like half a feature, and that's bothers me. I really wish that I could just walk away from the vehicle and have it lock, and I assume that they'd be following up with an OTA update to correct that, so you could walk away also, but they haven't, and it's been many months now, so I don't know what's going on with that. It wouldn't seem like it would be something that would be a very complicated thing to do, because they already do the remote unlock. Why wouldn't they also add the remote lock when you walk away? So you've got to stop and press the button on the door handle and lock the Lightning. It's kind of annoying, and hopefully they'll fix that sometime soon. The power delivery is just phenomenal. This thing just launches. You step on it, and I mean, it just throws you back in your seat. And I know it's not the only electric vehicle that does that, but for some reason, I seem to get more kicks in this because it's a big pickup truck than I do when I do it, say, in a Tesla, and a Model S just drove by us on the left. It just, I don't know, it feels different. Maybe because I'm high up in the air and in this big truck, but the power is just something else. And when I'm all loaded up in the back, if I load the back up with supplies, you don't even feel it. It still launches. So the power on the Lightning is just amazing. I also really like the driving experience as far as like the comfort. Very comfortable, super quiet cabin. The seats are comfortable. I like the fact that when I do a remote start, if it's in the winter, the heated seats and the heated steering wheel turn on automatically. Some of the other vehicles that I have, you can do a remote start and it'll start up and warm up the cabin, but you don't have the option to turn on the heated seats and the heated steering wheel. It's nice in the middle of winter getting into the truck, and the air isn't the only thing that's warm. The seat and the steering wheel is. So I think that's a good feature that Ford has that. I like the regen coach. I think that's cool. Even though I've been driving electric vehicles for a long time and I really know how regen works and I know how to maximize my regen, I like seeing that. And I like seeing that, I was 100% regen that time. And if I don't get 100%, I'm like, okay, the next time I'm definitely going to get 100%. And that's important for new EV drivers, people who have never driven an EV. And it really kind of, it coaches them to get the most regen and extend their range as far as they can. So I really appreciate that Ford put that in there. Other things like Pro Power Onboard has 11 power outlets. There's some in the frunk, there's some in the back of the bed, there's some inside the cabin. I've used that numerous times when I was out with friends. We had a barbecue. We powered everything with the Pro Power Onboard. I recently loaned my Lightning to a friend because he had to pick up a whole bunch of stuff from Home Depot and had it for the day. And the funny thing is, he gets back to his house and there was a power outage at his house. So he ran a whole bunch of extension cords to his house, was powering his refrigerator, some temporary lighting and everything. And he called me up. He's like, do you mind if I keep the truck until the power comes back on? Because we kind of need it now. And that's just a great thing to have just in case something like that happens. And talking about just in case there's a power outage, I also installed the Ford's intelligent backup power system in my house. I have a full video on that if you want to check it out. I'll drop a link in the description of this video. I've used that maybe 4 or 5 times this year, and that system provides up to 9.6 kilowatt to your house automatically with the Lightning plugged into Ford Charge Station Pro. It feeds power back to the house in the case of a power outage, and worked great for me. I know other people seem to have some problems with it. Mine's been working, and I did have one minor glitch with it, and Ford fixed it. But I've had 99% uptime with it, and works fine for me. Check out that video because I do a deep dive and really explain the system and talk about whether it's worth it or not. It's very expensive, and I don't think the use case is really sensible for a lot of people. But there are some people where it really does make sense, and for those people, it's really good to have. And I think if you need it, you know you need it. But other people can just use Pro Power Onboard in the case of a power outage and run a whole bunch of extension cords and just get through the emergency event. But I love the fact that Ford offers that, and that the Lightning was the first vehicle that offered this vehicle-to-home backup power system. This video, as well as all of the videos here on State of Charge, is sponsored by Qmerit. Once I've helped you decide which electric vehicle charger you're going to buy, then follow the link in the description of my videos and have Qmerit install it. Another thing that I really love about the Lightning is this huge panoramic glass roof. And it's not just a stationary panoramic glass roof. The front half of it does open up. And also it has a great sunshade, a power operated sunshade. So if you don't want the sun coming in, you just press a button and it closes. And it closes in 2 sections. It'll stop at the end of the first section. So you could close the back half of the roof. Let's say you had passengers in the back seat and they didn't want the sun on them. You can close that and then still leave the front open. So really like how Ford integrated that. I'm going to open it back up because I like to let all the sunlight in and almost all the time, unless it's really hot. When it gets close to 100 degrees Fahrenheit, even though it's tinted and has the UV blocking, it can let in some radiant heat. So I'll close it on the super hot summer days. But other than that, I pretty much leave it open all the time. It even gives the cabin a more open, airy feeling. So really good job, good integration with the fact that the front half opens, and also you've got that shade that closes if you don't want it open. I love the power tailgate on the vehicle also, and the fact that it not only opens by itself, but it closes. And it has an integrated step with a handle to help you get up into the bed. Now, I know that's not Lightning specific, and some of these things that we're talking about here today aren't specific to the electric truck that Ford has. The regular combustion F-150s also have some of these features, but I'm talking about them because it's what I like about the Lightning. And even though some of these features are shared with the combustion versions, that's okay with me. I still get them in the Lightning. Another thing that I like is this center console, this huge center console, and how if you could press a button and the shifter folds down into the console, and then it allows you to lift the center armrest up and create a table. It's great for laptop. I don't really use it for a laptop much, but I do use it to eat if I'm stopping on a road trip at like a fast food restaurant. It's literally like a nice table for you and your passenger, and I think that's a good integration that Ford included here in the Lightning. Ford's hand-free Blue Cruise is also available on the Lightning, and I have it here on this Lariat, and it works really well. It's a hands-free system, and it allows you to pretty much just let the vehicle do the driving when you're on pre-mapped highways, which I found pretty much all of the highways in my area, I'm here in the Northeast, are pre-mapped. Very rarely do I come across a highway that it doesn't have the mapping and you can't use the hands-free Blue Cruise. And at least on all the highways that I drive on, and when I go up to Vermont, pretty much the whole way, I can use the Blue Cruise hands-free system. It works really well. And the Lightning currently has Ford's Blue Cruise 1.0. They recently released Blue Cruise 1.2, and they sent out an OTA for the Mustang Mach-E. So the Mach-E has the next level of Blue Cruise. The Lightning doesn't have it yet. We're supposed to get it soon towards the end of 2023, which we're at the end of 2023 now, so it should be coming soon. And I was able to get a Mustang Mach-E that had Blue Cruise 1.2, and I can tell you, as good as Blue Cruise is in the Lightning, it's that much better. There's new features that are added. It also reduced the amount of ping-ponging you do in the lane. Ping-ponging is when you have an ADAS system that steers for you, and the vehicle will bounce between the lines when you're driving on the highway. The Lightning does that, and that's one of probably my biggest complaint. It does ping pong back inside the lane more than it should. And I'm hoping that with Blue Cruise 1.2, that gets improved upon. Now, when I drove the Mustang Mach-E, it had almost no ping ponging. So I'm inclined to think that Ford has improved on that, and when it comes into the Lightning, that'll be improved also. And then other improvements are, it does hands-free lane change, so the vehicle can actually change lanes. You put your blinker on, it finds the right opening, and it'll do the lane change for you, which is pretty good. Blue Cruise 1.0 that I have here doesn't do lane changing, but I like the system overall, and I think Ford does a pretty good job with it. Next up, let's talk about charging the Lightning. Now, it's a little bit of a mixed bag. As far as home charging goes, I'm very satisfied. I have the 80 amp Ford Charge Station Pro, and that pumps up to 18 kilowatt into the Lightning's battery, and that's a lot for AC charging. It's actually the highest rate of charging you can have on AC home charging. So I'm able to fill the battery up pretty quickly. On most days, with 2 or 3 hours of charging, I'm back to 90%. I set the Lightning to charge to 90%. You don't want to really charge to 100% every day. You can charge to 100% when you need to, if you're going on a long road trip and you think you need the extra miles. But with the amount of range the Lightning has, there's no need to charge it to 100% every day, and it's better for the battery if you don't charge it to 100% every day. So a couple of hours, and I'm always back to 90%. And even if I completely drain the battery, it would be fully recharged overnight. So Ford did a really good job with AC charging. With DC fast charging, it's a little bit of a mixed bag. It's what I consider barely like the minimum acceptable speed. I'm not gonna say it's unacceptable, but Ford could have had the vehicle charge a little bit faster. It takes around 40 to 45 minutes to charge it from, say, between 10 and 15% up to 80%, which is what you usually do on a road trip. It's a little bit longer than I'd like to see. I really think Ford could get it down to somewhere around 30 minutes with the 10 to 80% charge rate. With such a big battery, it should be able to accommodate a higher DC fast charge rate. Ford lists the DC fast charge rate at 150 kilowatts, the maximum charge rate, but what you do get is when you first plug in, the Lightning has this short boost where for about 7 or 8 minutes, it'll accept up to 180 kilowatts, but then it goes back down, and the maximum charge rate is going to be about 150 kilowatts. It has a nice linear charging curve, so it does accept a lot of power for a long time, but it's a huge battery when you have the extended range like I do. So unfortunately, it takes a little bit longer than it should. Let's say you're going on a super long road trip and you need to cover 1,000 miles. You'd probably drive about 200 to 250 miles, and then you'd need about a 40 to 45 minute stop, provided there's a working charger en route that can deliver 350 kilowatts or, even 150 kilowatt DC fast charger would be okay, but then it would take a little bit longer. You'd stop for 45 minutes or so, then you'd be able to drive another 200 miles or so, and then you'd stop for 45 minutes. So it's not ideal. It's certainly doable, and it's not that inconvenient, but I always say use the right tool for the job. And while the Lightning is fantastic and perfect for me, for my lifestyle, if you're somebody that needs a truck and you need to frequently drive 1,000 miles or more, more than once a month, it's probably not the best choice for you. You could make it work, but it's going to be a little inconvenient, and you're going to wait a little bit longer on when you're stopping. If you're like me and you just do occasional, every couple of months, you might drive 1,000 miles or 600 miles or something like that. It's not that bad because it just makes the trip a little bit longer. But if it's something you regularly do, or if you need to trailer and tow for long distances, the truck's capable of doing it, but being capable of doing something and being convenient at doing it could be two different things. And I probably don't recommend the Lightning if you frequently need to tow big items for many miles, particularly if you live, say, in middle America, where the charging infrastructure isn't as robust as it is on the coasts. But as I said, use the right tool for the job. The Lightning might be physically capable of doing it, but that doesn't mean it's the most convenient way to get the job done. All right, next up, let's talk about some of the things that I'm not happy about with the Lightning and I wish Ford would improve upon. First up is the Android Auto integration. When it works, it's great. But for some reason, my Samsung S22 doesn't connect often. It's probably less than 50% of the time. And I've got to manually hit the buttons and connect it. It pairs once I do it manually, but then many times I just come in the truck and it does what it's supposed to. It automatically connects. So I don't really know what's going on there, and it's really annoying. And this isn't the only phone. I also have a Google Pixel, and it does the same thing. So it's not my phone, it's the truck for sure, and Ford really should improve upon that. I also really don't like the wireless phone charging compartment. It's very deep and it's not wide, so I kind of have to like drop my phone in, and then it's hard to get it out. So I wish Ford would redesign that. It's very inconvenient. I almost never use it. I just use my USB cable because just getting the phone in and out of that compartment is really a task. So very poor design as far as that goes. And that's something that isn't specific to the Lightning. My Lightning does not have a heat pump system. Heat pump systems are much more efficient at warming the cabin and battery in the winter months. And using less energy to do that means there's more energy to propel the vehicle and you can go farther. So unfortunately, when Ford launched the Lightning in 2022, did not come with a heat pump system. Neither did the 2023 models. But Ford is adding a heat pump system for 2024 models. So while I didn't get it, and neither did the other early adopters, moving forward in 2024 on, the truck will have a heat pump system. Now I have some experience with this because I had a 2019 Tesla Model 3, did not have a heat pump system. And then I bought a 2021 Model 3. I sold the 2019 and that had a heat pump system. And I really noticed a noticeable difference in the colder weather. So heat pump systems, when engineered properly, do make a difference and does extend your winter driving range in the cold weather. So unfortunately, I don't have it, but Ford did make that improvement and is adding it for 2024 model year and onward. Another thing that I really don't like is the information that Ford gives you with regards to charging, when the vehicle is charging. Now, I will say in the app, you can find the current charging power that's being delivered to the vehicle. You could also find the amount of kilowatt hours in that charging session and how long it's been charging. But as soon as you unplug the vehicle, that clears, but it is in the app. But that's bare minimum. I'd like to see it in the vehicle. I'd like to see on the driver's display or center screen charging information. So if you're charging at a DC fast charger, you could take a quick look. It's nice when the vehicles display the amperage and the voltage, the charging power, as well as the time to 80% or whatever you have it set at. But Ford doesn't do that at all in the vehicle. You get almost no information here. It tells you how long it's going to charge to finish, but you get no charging power, amps, volts, kilowatt draw, kilowatt hours pumped in, none of that. And it's really lacking. And unfortunately, I don't think that's something Ford's going to change in like a software update. I think we're gonna have to wait until the next generation electric vehicle trucks that Ford's gonna be putting out in 2025 comes out. The one, they have it code name the T3 for trust the truck is their motto. surprise me for it and maybe improve this on an OTA update, that would be fantastic. I'm not holding my breath for that, but it's really lacking currently, and that bothers me, especially being a charging guy. I want to know what's going on with my vehicle while it's charging, and Ford doesn't give you adequate information, in my opinion. Another one of my complaints is that for some reason, sometimes my frunk doesn't open when I press the button. It always opens when I use the app, but sometimes when I press the button and I hold it long enough, it beeps and begins to unlatch, but then it stops and I have to press it again. And it happens probably once a month. So I don't know if this is a problem specific to my Lightning or if it's a issue that other owners have, but it's kind of annoying. And I'm gonna, when I eventually bring this in for service at some point, I'm gonna mention it to them and have them take a look at it. But that's a problem that shouldn't happen. I also want to say that the app needs to have more information. There's almost no information in the Ford app, and most vehicles, when you open up the app, they'll at least tell you, say, if the vehicle's locked or unlocked. You don't even get that with the app. Now, you can lock it and unlock it from the app, but when you open up your app, you don't know if the vehicle is locked. And sometimes I'll forget, I wonder, did I lock the Lightning? Of course, because the phone is a key, lock doesn't work when I walk away, and I'll wonder, so I go to open it up, I'd like to be able to check to see if it's locked, and you don't get that information. So I just hit lock just to be safe, and I might be locking it when it's already locked, but you don't know, and Ford needs to do a better job and provide more of the vehicle information in that app. Another one of my complaints is, as much as I like this center armrest, it's a nice, big, wide, comfortable center armrest, the springs that Ford uses are inadequate. And I thought at first maybe it was just on the Lightning, but I did some internet searches, and it seems like a lot of F-150 owners complain about the same thing. When you press the button to unlatch the armrest, it only pops up like a couple of inches. And when you're driving, it makes it difficult because when you press it to open it, it doesn't lift up enough, and you have to kind of get your arm in it to lift it up. And I found it really distracting when I wanted to open up the armrest. You want to press the button and have it kind of pop up so you can then just lift it. It didn't lift up enough. So the interesting thing is, I found online a lot of people complained about this. So they had these fixes. There's springs you could buy that are stronger springs, but you also can pull off the plastic panel that covers the springs, pull the springs up, and slide in 2 nickels on each side, and it gives it just enough extra tension. So when you pop it open, it now lifts up far enough for you to get your hand under it and lift it the rest of the way. It's a 20-cent fix, but it works. And it's kind of an unforced error. Ford must know that there's an issue with this, because a lot of people online on the F-150 forums were complaining about it, and they haven't improved it. I don't know why they just don't get slightly stronger springs. It would make a big improvement. But anyway, I fixed it for 20 cents. All right, well, that's pretty much it for my 1-year ownership experience. As you can tell, I am happy with my Lightning, and I would recommend it for other people, provided you don't have those use cases that I mentioned about towing for very long distances, or even needing to frequently, a couple times a month, travel many hundreds of miles. The truck can do it without a problem, but the infrastructure is the issue. We still aren't at a point where the infrastructure is robust enough where you have many charging stations in convenient locations and you don't have to wait when you get there. So, you know, you got to use the right tool for the job. And I think the Lightning will work well for a lot of people. Not everybody. Only you know what your use case is going to be. But if you are interested in an electric truck, you're thinking about the Lightning, and you think that your use case would be okay for what the Lightning can do, I would definitely recommend getting it. I'm extremely happy with my Lightning. I've owned 11 electric vehicles over the last 13 years. And the Lightning might be my favorite electric vehicle. It's that good. The driving experience, the power, pretty much everything about it, I'm extremely happy with. And even more happy than I thought I would be when I bought it. So I can honestly recommend it. If you're thinking about getting Lightning, go for it. I think you'll be happy with your purchase. Listen, if this is your first time here at State of Charge, please don't forget, hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you don't miss any upcoming electric vehicle news and reviews. And as always, thanks for watching.